He's standing at the podium of the most prestigious film ceremony in France. Blinding white lights, hundreds of industry insiders watching. He gives his speech in French. Months of preparation, he says.
Bonsoir. Merci beaucoup. C'est très gentil. En tant qu'acteur, chaque personnage que vous incarnez, c'est comme l'argile du sculpteur que vous façonnez à la forme de votre cœur. Quelle chance j'ai eu de partager cet art avec tant de personnes qui m'ont offert leur cœur en retour.
He cries. He thanks his father. And as the clip hits 40 million views that same night, the reaction isn't applause. It's silence. Then one word. Who is that? Now, most of the people asking that question are going to give you the wrong answer. But none of them are wrong about what they noticed. And that difference between the wrong answer and the right question is what this video is about. Because here's what nobody in the replacement debate is actually talking about. Jim Carrey stood on network television in 2014 and named the system, not metaphorically, by function, by mechanism, by name. He looked into the camera and said people on television are hired to keep you happy and docile. He got laughs. He got a segment rap.
For years now, talk show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff like that, make you happy and docile so you don't know what's really going on.
And then, over the following 8 years, one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood history went completely and deliberately silent. Before Paris, before the replacement theories, before the AI-generated mask that briefly convinced millions they'd cracked the case, there was a timeline. And when you follow that timeline, the statements, the lawsuits, the documented history of how institutional systems handle public dissent, the picture that emerges is considerably more disturbing than a clone. Tonight, we're following the money, the mechanism, and the silence. Because this isn't really about Jim Carrey's face. It's about a system, and the cost of naming it. Let's decode it. Welcome to Decoding the Darkness. Jim Carrey's net worth peaked at an estimated $180 million. At his height in the late 1990s, he commanded $20 million per film, a figure that was essentially unheard of at the time. The Truman Show, Eternal Sunshine, The Mask. These weren't just box office successes. They were films that asked uncomfortable questions about surveillance, about manufactured identity, about what happens when a man discovers his entire reality has been engineered for someone else's benefit. It's worth noting that Carrey didn't just star in these films. He chose them. Repeatedly. So the question worth asking isn't whether he looks different in 2026. The question is whether a man who spent 30 years systematically choosing roles about false realities might have had a reason for that. By 2014, something had shifted. On the Jimmy Kimmel Live stage, a network program watched by millions, Carrey deviated from the standard press junket. He gestured and spoke directly. "I'm here tonight to blow the lid off it, to be the whistleblower. I'm sick and tired of the secrets and the lies."
Yeah.
What is it?
Come on, Jimmy. Seriously, the time is up. People are hip to this kind of stuff. I'm here tonight to blow the lid off it, to be the whistleblower. I'm sick and tired of the secrets and the lies. It is the secret symbol of the Illuminati, and you're a part of it, and it is the all-mocking tongue.
He described talk show hosts as government-hired distractions designed to keep audiences happy and docile. The studio audience laughed. But examine the clip carefully. The laughter was immediate, almost reflexive. The host pivoted the segment within seconds. And Carrey, beneath the performance, maintained eye contact with a steadiness that didn't read as comedic.
For years now, talk show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff like that, make you happy and docile so you don't know what's really going on. You know, when they get out there in the woods in a circle naked and they decide these things and, you know, and Yeah, look at him trying to cover it up. It's hilarious.
3 years later, at a New York red carpet event in 2017, he gave an unscripted interview that has since been viewed tens of millions of times. "There's no me," he told the reporter. "There's no Jim Carrey. It's just a character I played once. Most people wrote it off as spiritual crisis."
No, I'm doing just fine. I just, there's no meaning to any of this. So I wanted to find the most meaningless thing that I could come to and join. And here I am.
Jim, you got really dressed up for the occasion. You look good.
No, I didn't.
Was that an
get dressed
accident?
up. I didn't get dressed up.
Who did?
There is no me.
There's no you.
No.
We're not here. This is a dream.
There's just things happening. And there are clusters of tetrahedrons moving around together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's happening in our world right now? Because there is a lot of news that actually is relevant that's not that
Here's
uplifting.
the thing. It's not our world.
None
That's
of this
the
is
key.
real?
Nope.
So you're just passing
We don't
through.
matter. We don't matter.
Oh, wow.
This is the good news.
Moments between 2014 and 2017, something happened that almost nobody covered with the seriousness it deserved. His girlfriend died, and the circumstances surrounding her death became the subject of 2 separate lawsuits that named him personally.
She left a suicide note for Carrey. They had broken up the week before. I've spent 3 days now in disbelief that you're not here. I can go on brokenhearted and try to put the pieces back. I could, I just don't have the will this time.
In September 2015, Catriona White, a 30-year-old Irish makeup artist, was found dead in her Los Angeles home. The cause? Prescription drug overdose, ruled a suicide. She and Carrey had maintained an on-and-off relationship since 2012, and they had reportedly separated just days before her death. A note was found at the scene addressed to him.
The toxicology report says she had multiple drugs in her system, including pain medication prescribed to an Arthur King, who is believed to be an alias used by Carrey, according to published reports.
Now here is what almost never gets reported clearly. 2 separate civil lawsuits followed. White's estranged husband, Mark Burton, filed a wrongful death claim alleging that Carrey had obtained controlled substances under a false name, a documented alias, and provided them to White without her full knowledge. White's mother filed a separate action making identical allegations. These were not tabloid rumors. These were sworn civil filings naming a sitting Hollywood star in a wrongful death action. Carrey denied the claims.
Jim Carrey has been slapped with another wrongful death lawsuit in connection with his former girlfriend's suicide. This time, it's Catriona White's mother suing the comedian, blaming him for the makeup artist's 2015 death and claiming he gave her several STDs without warning her he had them. Among her accusations, the woman alleges Carrey gave White herpes 1 and 2 and chlamydia, and knowingly provided her with the prescription drugs she used to overdose. Carrey's lawyer is calling this latest lawsuit ridiculous and an attempt to capitalize on White's suicide. He's accusing White's estranged husband of the same thing after he filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Carrey too.
Both lawsuits were dismissed in 2018, but between the filing and the dismissal, something changed that was documented and visible. He withdrew. His public appearances became rare. When he did speak, the content had shifted away from comedy toward philosophy, toward pointed statements about what he called forces in the entertainment industry that most people never see. In 2022, he announced retirement. He moved to Hawaii. He began painting. He essentially disappeared.
I have enough. I've done enough. I am enough.
And when he reappeared in Paris in 2026, he did not look or behave like the man the world had watched for 30 years. The mainstream press reached for the obvious explanation: bad Botox. Surgeons consulted by media outlets confirmed his presentation was consistent with upper eyelid procedures and facial volume work. That is documented. But here is what the cosmetic surgery explanation does not address: the behavioral shift. Because Jim Carrey's expressiveness was not a performance style. It was documented across 30 years of footage as an intrinsic behavioral pattern: the rubbery face. The physical comedy, the manic interview energy that made him impossible to contain in any social setting.
Well, this before and after is circulating, showing a massive change in his appearance. Well, as you can see, his brows look elevated, possibly due to an endoscopic brow lift. You can see his hairline has even raised a little bit, and this is another sign of a brow lift. His eyelids are a lot more open, and he doesn't appear to have excess skin of his eyes that he had before.
The man in Paris was calm, measured, occasionally making familiar expressions that, as multiple observers noted, felt studied rather than spontaneous. And when you place that behavioral shift against the documented timeline of what he said, what happened to him, and how quickly the institutional response moved to contain the story, the picture gets considerably more complicated. Stop here for a moment, because before this goes where you think it's going, the documented record requires careful attention. The question of whether institutional power has historically targeted individuals who publicly dissent is not a theoretical question. It is confirmed by the United States Senate. The Church Committee hearings of 1975 documented, officially on the congressional record, that the CIA's MK-Ultra program had systematically targeted American citizens, artists, activists, journalists, public figures. The toolkit included surveillance, reputation destruction, psychological pressure campaigns, and in some cases, chemical interventions administered without consent. MK-Ultra ran from 1953 until at least 1973. Over 150 separate research programs were funded. When the program was formally exposed, the CIA destroyed the majority of its files. The documents that survived were sufficient to generate congressional hearings and a formal government apology. Now, the question the Church Committee itself raised, and never fully answered, is what happened to those capabilities after 1973? Because the infrastructure didn't disappear, it evolved. And in 2024 and 2025, the document releases connected to the Epstein investigation confirmed something that had previously been dismissed as conspiracy theory. A documented criminal enterprise characterized by a UN human rights panel operating at the intersection of wealth, government access, and the entertainment industry. Those documents described leverage operations. They described coordinated influence over public figures. They described a system in which proximity to institutional power came with explicit consequences for those who stepped outside its boundaries. You already know this, because you've watched other things get dismissed as conspiracy theory, then confirmed as fact. The pattern is documented. Extreme claim absorbs the scrutiny. Underlying questions go unexamined. Jim Carrey named the mechanism publicly in 2014. He described losing his sense of self in 2017. His girlfriend died in circumstances that generated 2 civil lawsuits. He retired in 2022. Analysts would describe that as a behavioral discontinuity pattern, a documented, observable change in public conduct that correlates with a specific trigger event. Whether that sequence represents coincidence, consequence, or something more systematic is the question the documentary record raises, and leaves deliberately unanswered. Here is the part the replacement theorists missed. The pushback came from below. 40 million views. Dozens of languages, side-by-side comparisons built by ordinary people with video editing apps and too much free time. None of it coordinated. And the institutional response moved fast. Carrey's representative confirmed his attendance within hours. Major media published the cosmetic surgery explanation within a day. The story was contextualized, categorized, and closed before most people had finished watching the clips. Now, that speed is itself a data point worth examining. Because the history of documented cover-ups, from MK-Ultra to the Epstein network, suggests that the reflexive dismissal of uncomfortable questions is not always evidence that the questions are wrong. Sometimes it's evidence that they're close to something real. The makeup artist Alexis Stone added noise. She posted AI-generated images claiming the appearance had been a stunt, a claim that collapsed immediately because no behind-the-scenes footage existed to support it. But her intervention, whether deliberate or not, served a function. It allowed the behavioral question, the timeline question, the documented history question to be collapsed into a single discredited claim about masks. This is classic information environment management. Introduce an obviously false version of the theory. Let its falseness absorb the scrutiny. Allow the more serious underlying questions to go unexamined. Carrey himself said nothing. The internet moved on within a week, but the people asking the real question, not was he cloned, but was he silenced, they're still here, and the answer to that question connects to something much bigger than one actor's changed appearance. This pattern repeats. An individual rises to mass cultural influence. They begin making statements that challenge institutional narratives. A crisis emerges in their personal life, legal, financial, involving private relationships. Their public behavior changes markedly. They withdraw. They return, eventually, as a different kind of public figure. Quieter, more managed. Paul McCartney faced replacement theories rooted in documented behavioral shifts following intense institutional pressure within the Beatles' corporate structure. Michael Jackson's physical and behavioral transformation coincided precisely with his maximum conflict period with Sony Music over catalog ownership. In both cases, the extreme conspiracy theory absorbed the scrutiny and allowed the documented, verifiable underlying story to remain largely unexamined. The extreme theory is useful, not because it's true, but because its falseness provides cover for the institutional actors who benefit from the confusion. The question for Jim Carrey is not whether he was replaced. The question is whether the system he described on camera, by function, by name, on network television, operates in the way he described. And the documented record suggests that it does. Not through clones, not through body doubles, through leverage, through legal exposure, through the careful management of what a person is willing to say in public once they understand the consequences of saying the wrong thing. Jim Carrey said the wrong things. He said them loudly, repeatedly, on camera.
There is no me.
There's no you.
No.
We're not here. This is a dream.
There's just things happening. And there are clusters of tetrahedrons moving around together.
Okay.
Is that a gang sign? Have you,
Oh, like you don't know what it is. You don't know what that is.
I have no idea.
You don't know. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know. David Letterman doesn't know.
We don't know.
All the comics and show business don't know what this is.
And then, over the following 8 years, he stopped. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is a timeline. And the man who appeared in Paris in February 2026, whether his face had been altered by surgery, by time, or by something the cameras couldn't capture, appeared to be a man who had learned at significant personal cost exactly where the line is. The line between speaking and staying, between naming the system and living quietly inside it. If you've made it this far, you already know the answer isn't on the surface. The people who stay on this channel are the ones who stopped accepting the first explanation. If that's you, subscribe. Turn on notifications. Because next, we're going inside the machine that decided what you should think about the Epstein files the week they were released, and why most of what you were told, even by the people who seem to be telling the truth, was designed to keep you from looking at the right documents. That one drops soon. The line is always in the same place. Someone gets close enough to name it out loud, and then, one way or another, they stop. The question isn't whether it happened to Jim Carrey. The question is how many times it happened before you started paying attention.